Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of The Link, and it's Pride Month. Woo!
It's Pride! I tried to give you a little pride with the glasses gradient and try to give
we
you
love it. We
a
love it.
little color, little color.
As you can see, we're a little short today, but that's okay because we did bring a special guest. But before we bring them on, my name is Kai Smith. I'm program coordinator for our CDC-funded programs at APLA Health, and this is The Link. We are a collaboration between Pyro Media Network, APLA Health Prevention Department, and funded by the CDC. And this wonderful person to this side, because it's different, is...
What's going on? I am your favorite prevention training specialist ever, at least on Swab and Chill. My name is Daniel J. And I just want to say I'm not short. I'm 5'10", although that was a very shock to my little spirit when the doctor told me that I was 5'10", because I just wanted to stop growing at 5'8", but that's another story.
I'll take those 2 inches. And we have a wonderful, absolutely amazing guest. You know him. You see him every week on The Plug on Drugs, Mr. Billy Joe Fox. Ooh.
That's his real name. Can we talk about the fact that that's his real name?
Real name.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Billy.
I'm Joe Fox here, representing the PartyWise program. You can see me every week on APLA Health and Prevention Department's Facebook under The Plug on Drugs.
Yeah, hi, Billy. Thank you so much for joining us with our Pride extravaganza for today.
The energy is electric.
Oh, we love it. And so if you're wondering what's going on, if you don't know, today's June 1st, which means it's officially Pride Month. And we are a bunch of queers who love to celebrate being queer, love to let the world know we're being queer. So we're making this entire month, graphics.
You better come through, Pyro.
As you can see, everything is Pride this month. And we are doing that for every single episode. So this week we have just a general Pride. Let me rock my Pride. Next week we'll have a wonderful special episode, and then continuously. And then on the last Tuesday of the month, we're going to have a little Pride celebration where we're going to be bringing DJs, performers, special guests. So join us on that time, and we'll remind you.
A performance extravaganza, if you please.
So many, and I'm excited for the performers too. And Billy will be there too. So with that, let's go ahead and get into what's popping for today. We're going to be talking about Pride, but first, what's happening in the world? What's popping? So it's been a busy week since last week to this week. I have some stuff that I guess we can start with. The first thing I guess I'll start with is something that is actually something that I think about often because I have long hair. Often I'm like, when I go out in public, I don't want people touching my hair. I want to make sure my hair is protected. I don't want to get messed up. So it's the thought of bonnets or hair coverings. What do I do when I go out in public? If you are on social media, especially if you're on like Black Twitter, Black Instagram, you might have seen a video that Miss Monique, the comedian, she released, the actress, comedian, actor, saying that we need to come together as a community and not wear bonnets. And if we see young Black women or Black people, to pick them up and let them know that they are not representing themselves appropriately. So I will start with Daniel. Let me ask you, how do you feel? You are around a lot of Black women often. You have a lot of Black friends, family members. What's your thoughts and opinions on this?
Well, first and foremost, I completely understand where Monique is coming from. She's from a different generation. She's from a generation that suffers from secondhand shame, which means it's the idea of having a Black person look a certain way and then saying, having the others judge that Black person, and then it represents all Black people in the wrong light. And so, I grew up with a mother like that, who really pushed, when you walk out of this house, you look right. You don't be walking out this house in no pajamas and no house shoes and none of that craziness. You get yourself together and you make sure that your presentation, your representation is on point. So I understand where she was coming from. But in having this conversation with a lot of different folks, I also have to recognize that it was specific to women. Like a lot of men tried to have the conversation, well, I wear my do-rag. Well, she ain't talking to you. Because let's be honest, men in do-rags at the airport, they're not really being looked at as, oh, that's ghetto or that's inappropriate. but a woman in a bonnet or in a head wrap looking like she's gonna go to bed in some pajamas and some fluffy slipper shoes, it has a different meaning. On the flip side, I think that you have to allow people to do what's most comfortable for them. And some people understand it. Some people are going to get it. Some people, agree with it. And then some people don't. I particularly, for me, I'm not going to the airport in a bonnet or a head wrap. And even though y'all seen me do head wraps, like the front nod and the little twist around thing, but I'm not wearing that to the airport because as soon as I get into TSA, they're gonna ask me to what? Remove it, because they want to be all up and they need to see what's under there. So when I go to the airport, I dress in a way that I feel good and comfortable but cute. I always remember my ABCs. Always be cute, always be comfortable, always be clean. That's just
love it. So I hear you. I totally get it. And I think too, because I had this conversation actually with my dad and a couple of my aunts this week, and we were in like a group text message and a couple of them brought it up. And it's one of those things, being from, my family is from the South. They are, obviously older generation now. And it was a lot of what some people were saying was like, I was taught, like we're taught never to leave the house. Like if you leave the house, you have to expect someone's going to be looking at you and you could get a movie deal from it. You could go with full face. It doesn't matter where you're going, grocery store to pick up the kids, anything like that. And I get that. I totally understand. But I think what a lot of people resonate, and one thing that resonates with me is, and one thing even Monique said is, if you look a certain way, people are going to treat you a certain way. And I think especially now in the Black community is we shouldn't have to be look a certain way or feel a certain or be presenting a certain way for you to treat us with dignity, respect. I know for me, going into the airport, especially when you think about Black women with their hair, the bonnet is used as a protective system. You're going out. One, the airport's nasty now. We know it's dirty. You're going to be putting your head on seats, things like this. And it's not that these women are putting bonnets on their head because, hey, my hair doesn't look good today. Usually it's probably because they got their hair done, either finished that day before, want to make sure it makes it to whatever trip they're going, especially, it's spring break, it's summertime, people going to Miami, which everyone's going to Miami or wherever they're going. And, they want to make sure when they get there, they look good. The airport is a place of travel. It is not a place that I'm going to try to impress anybody. And I think especially going up to someone and telling them they should represent themselves better is so disrespectful. Don't come to me in the middle of the airport and tell me you don't like the way I dress. Then fine, go away. Don't look at me. So that's what I think. Everyone, like Daniel said, everyone has kind of their own opinions, but where ultimately we really need to have this conversation of, you don't have to wear a bonnet. If someone else is wearing a bonnet though, it shouldn't make them less than, shouldn't be a bad representation. And especially with Black women, it's so often that we try to discredit Black women or try to make them an example of how to be, how not to be, as if every single Black woman has to be the representation of Black culture. And it's unfair, right? We are taking Black women into putting them on this pedestal, which rightfully they deserve. Black women are amazing. We all know that. But they're also human. They're allowed to not be perfect all the time. And I think,
do white women have to deal with this? Do other white women see white chicks with pajamas and flip flops and go, "Girl, don't wear that. You representing us bad"?
No. That's never a conversation that ever really happens. And even with men, like Daniel, you brought up the do-rags. Black men wearing do-rags, it's fashion. It's not something that you keep at home. It's not something that it depends on also, who you're talking to. Older Black people might call it hood, ghetto, whatever, because my dad said he would never wear a do-rag out in public. And I was like, okay.
But it's also protective.
It's protective
for men. Like when you're trying to get waves, that's a protection for your waves. But it's also fashion.
Mm-hmm. So that's where it is. If you don't like how I dress in the airport, hey, Joseph, close your eyes. See, Joseph, same thing. I'm going to be in the most comfortable thing. I'll probably not even be in tennis shoes. I'll be in slides because I got to take my shoes off. I'm in a big oversized sweater. I probably look one step away from homeless when I travel.
But I'm going to say this. I will look, if you come to the airport looking a mess, in my opinion, then I'm going to exercise my right to talk about that ass looking a hot mess. Okay, that's just that. Now, you can wear what the hell you want to wear. I ain't gonna come up to you talking about you need to represent our culture better. I'm not doing all of that foolishness. But I will talk about that ass in the corner. Why in the hell do she got holy ass pajamas?
Totally, you're right to do that. And I think ultimately no one's saying that you can't. You shouldn't talk about people in general. But you shouldn't be
about people.
you shouldn't force people to represent a culture. They're a person, right? So there's that. That's a first little tidbit. Billy, you've been quiet, and I know why you're being a little quiet, but I would love to hear what's happening in Billy's world. What pop culture things are you excited about right now?
Excited, not necessarily, maybe a little heated that these conversations are even happening. And I've been wanting to talk with individuals. I actually have a friend who's a former gymnast and now a sculpture professor who I spoke with about the controversies surrounding the difficulty at which Simone Biles performs gymnastics and how the judging is necessarily not, no points have been increased for the difficulty of the, and I know you have the name of it, Kai, the double pike what?
Ooh, I'm going to have to double check. It is the double Yurchenko. It's a Yurchenko double pike.
Of course, it was right the entire time. Yet this move cannot even be attempted from other competitors within the realm of gymnastics. So, and the fact that Simone Biles can perform such a feat has received no extra praise and or incentive for point systems as of right now.
Yeah. I mean, I feel you, Billy. I'm a big gymnastics fan. I've been in gymnastics like since the '92 Olympics. I mean, I was a baby, but I've been on it. Dominique Dawes was my girl. I wanted to be Dominique Dawes. So Dominique Dawes, if you're out there watching, I wanted to be you so bad. I thought I could do the balance beam just like you. But I think it's ridiculous, right? Someone has improved the sports of gymnastics. She has created, or she's done something that no other someone in women's gymnastics has been able to complete or do successfully, and she's competing it, and they're not rewarding her because it's dangerous for other people.
Yeah, and the justification that my friend tried to, not justification, but just like explanation as to how it necessarily doesn't even matter that there's the extra incentive in the realm of winning, like the ability to obtain gold and or first place in a certain area, is not changed by the fact that they're not getting incentive for their points, considering they're already performing at such a high level of experience and ability. Mm-hmm. Yet simultaneously, it basically curves out, I don't know, the objective or the new goals set for an individual that one might set on themselves that is a competitor or an athlete in this very, very competitive arena. If the extra work is not going to be, or the extra ability and or the difference in ability is not going to be acknowledged.
But I feel like we've seen this in sports for quite some time, specifically when it comes to Black competitors. You know, when you put me in a sport and I'm just freaking amazing, what do? You create constructs and rules and regulations and penalties to say, well, you can't do the extra special stuff because you become too special for the other people to compete, and, you know, it's not fair. Right, we saw this, you know, way back in the '90s with Saria Bonali, you know, with her infamous backflip on ice, and they penalized her for it. You know, said it was an illegal move. She wasn't able to do it. She wasn't going to get points on it. She actually got docked and fined for doing it. And I haven't seen anyone do it successfully since her. You know, and as beautifully as she did it. But I feel like it's one of those things where it's a double-edged sword, you know, both with women athletes specifically, but also women athletes of color, where the construct of oppression is we want to constrict your awesomeness because those not as awesome need to look better than you.
Yeah.
Frustration.
And yeah, Daniel, I think you're absolutely right, especially with sports. We see it oftentimes when it comes in terms for Black athletes and women athletes, right? With men, it's all about pressing it and being better and really doing these monstrous things. And then you have 4'5" Simone Biles, who's tumbling and a better gymnast than probably most people in the world. Even on in competing against other men, she's doing things that they can't even do. And for
how many times can you do the same flip before it's just like, okay, girl, we see that.
And I know there was even a conversation because during the same competition that she landed the Yurchenko, she, on the back of her leotard, there was a goat on it, you know, GOAT, greatest of all times. And some people are like, that is so inappropriate. She couldn't say it. And honestly, she is. There's no more award-winning gymnasts alive. There's nothing. So
say it if not them.
yeah, like This is Simone. At this point in time, she is the greatest of all time. Like, no one has defeated her. No one has won. So honestly, Simone Biles, when you go to the Olympics, I want you to throw that Wchenko. I want you to get that dock point and still sweep every single category because her high level of difficulty is better than everyone. So we can't wait to watch Simone Biles just dominate the Olympics this year. Daniel, what's popping with you?
Well, keeping in line with our sports conversation, Naomi Osaka is getting a lot of flack for not agreeing to do press when withdrawing from the French Open for her mental health. And there are a lot of people that are saying that, this is a part of her agreements, that this is a part of being an athlete, that how dare you not do press? How dare you pull out of this? And on the other side, there are a lot of journalists, there are a lot of people in the media who support the decision. And one person, journalist, author that I follow, whom I love, Demetria Lucas, who's written for, the Huffington Post and the Griot and things like that. She said, being an athlete, showing up and doing the game is their job. The contractual stuff with media and all of those are add-ons. So for her to not do press, for her to pull out of this Open, for her mental health, for her well-being, that's well within her right. Like, that's well to keep herself in a space where she can continue to play the sport that she loves. But to have people penalize her and say some really kind of cruel things to her because she doesn't want to do a press conference.
Yeah.
Go take a nap.
This individual had the foresight and the ability to acknowledge and identify a mental health issue before it became too much of an issue for that individual and or could have caused very detrimental side effects to that person, unseen, because they decided to withdraw from publicity for that. And not only, they had still planned to compete until 2 days before the French Open, where they thought that the media circulating this individual taking their mental health into their own hands was taking away from their competitors. So that is when they decided to step away from even competing. So not only did you sacrifice time, energy, and publicity for yourself by taking care of yourself, you also had the courage and the confidence to step away, knowing that it was affecting other people in your arena. I applaud that more so than any critique I ever want to give to Naomi Osaka.
And I think people really need to realize and acknowledge, people in the media as well as people on the other side of these athletic sports that entertain us so greatly. There have been several athletes throughout time who have said doing press is detrimental to their mental health because of the questions that are asked, the probing that happens, the environment that they're in. I mean, we look at LeBron James' famous meme of him, or GIF, getting up, grabbing his briefcase and just walking out of a press conference because they were asking him about the mental health of his fellow teammates. And it's like, how the hell am I supposed to know that? So I think there really is a larger conversation that needs to be had with the media as it pertains to athletes being in front of cameras and basically being grilled, which again is not a part of their job. Their job is to play the sport that they love to play and play it well.
Yeah. There's nothing more I can really add to that. Both of you have said it. Naomi, obviously here at APLA, we definitely always support people doing things for their mental health. And I think this is a huge first step because it isn't a conversation that happens often with athletes, is how are we actually treating them? They're putting their bodies on the lines. And whether you agree with them getting paid astronomical amounts of money, that's a whole different story. But these are still human beings. And this human being, she voiced her opinion. They voiced their opinion and they voiced their needs and their concerns. And I think it's horrible the way that the French Open director came at Naomi and said, like, well, hopefully they learn to behave themselves and blah, blah. I was like, what kind of man is going to sit here in 2021 and say that? One, about a woman. Two, about a Black woman who is proudly Black, who has fought a racial justice. You just don't.
Well, Piers Morgan called her a petulant brat.
Well, we know who Piers Morgan is.
I was like, really? Okay.
And it's tennis. It's tennis, everyone. Like, the way people are acting is like he dropped out of like. Oh, go ahead.
My apologies, guys. Any white male athlete from any sport, regardless of the intensity and or difficulty and athleticism, would be championed for speaking out in some of the most like rough and tumble sports we have. Ultimate fighting, cage fighting. If an individual took themselves out of publicity for their mental health, they would be championed in this moment.
Yeah. So we'll let everyone at home think about that. But let's get into, because there was a lot of great conversations, but let's get into why we're here. Pride. Ooh. So.
Am I supposed to dance?
Yes, Billy, always. Whenever we can, you should dance.
Ooh, we got to the ladies' side. Yeah.
So with today's episode, we want to obviously give some information about Pride, give a little, I guess, backstory, the history of Pride. We know a lot of people everywhere around the world, we've heard it, especially these last few years. The community has done a really, really great job about letting people know what Pride was. Pride was a riot, right? The very, very first, reason why Pride started was a riot. In 1969 in New York City, there was, a lot of gay people out. They were in, and now obviously I can't remember. Somebody help me. What is the name of the bar?
Stonewall Inn.
Oh, Stonewall Inn. God, I couldn't. Stonewall Inn they were out, and during the 1960s, 60s, 70s, being a homosexual was illegal. You could go be checked into the hospital for mental instabilities, anything like that. So oftentimes police officers would go in plain clothing, normal clothing, to places that were predominantly queer. They would go in and harass them, right? They would ask people to show their genitals to prove their gender. They would, take people's clothes off, and then they would just arrest them and just put them in jail. That night, though, people said no more. So there was basically a riot. There's some about who threw the first brick or who threw the first bottle. There is a lot of questioning. A lot of people credit Marsha P. Johnson. She said later on it was not her. But ultimately, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera were two trans women. Marsha P. Johnson, a Black trans woman of color. Sylvia Rivera, a Latinx trans woman of color, came together and kind of helped rally. For 6 days, they protested. A year later, in 1970, to commemorate the riot that happened, they created the first kind of Pride event. And that has happened every year since 1970. First one was in New York City. Then in 2009, once President Obama was elected, during his presidency, he declared November Pride Month. And so now we officially celebrate Pride. But that's just kind of the quick, brief overview. If you were looking for more...
November or June?
You said November.
Oh, June. I'm sorry, not November. Sorry, I'm thinking
You're
about
a time traveler now.
Different places have different prides. Tucson is October to June. So and now you'll find out why I know that later. So now a lot of people around the world, if you were on social media, you saw Puerto Vallarta had their Pride this last weekend, and a lot of people were there. But it's happening everywhere. So that is the history of Pride. That's just kind of a quick overview. But let's get into kind of what Pride is today. So Billy, when I just told you Pride started as a riot, it was a push against the man, if you will.
Yes.
Do you think Pride is still that today?
No.
What do you think?
I don't believe that the roots in which Pride originated from are sprouting the same fruit in 2021.
Why do you think it is?
What was that?
Why do you think that is?
Commercialization.
Okay.
Party culture.
Okay.
A lot of liberties have come, a lot of visibility has happened henceforth, and a lot of, I feel, apathy about the components of Pride and where they originated from are present now in current mainstream American Pride.
No.
I worked in Pride for Prides for maybe the past 9 years. I haven't been a patron of a Pride event in about 9 years. 9 years, 25 going to San Francisco Pride. But since then, I've been a bartender and or a manager of queer establishments during Pride.
So busy. Pride hasn't always been super exciting for you. Daniel, what about you? When you think of where Pride started to where we are now in the year 2021, our Lord, what do you think of Pride now? What do you think Pride is now, I guess?
I mean, I think pride is personal and pride is individual, but I think that pride is also a culture, specifically when we look at LGBTQIA plus pride. I think that pride now is a way for people to release their inhibitions. It's a space where now people are taking on, banners that aren't really rooted in what pride started out as. Pride started out as a fight to simply be, a fight to be who I am, to be allowed to be who I am, to have the same rights as any other human on the planet who's cisgender or heterosexual would have. And I think we have moved into a space where other things are now that banner, sexual liberation, the ability to sleep with whomever I want to, the ability to, walk down the street half naked because I love my body and we want to call that body positivity. But personally, I do think that there are a lot of banners that have been attached to pride that really is more connected to hedonism than anything else. It's our excuse to kind of do what we want to do because we can. And I don't often see a lot of communities or events where there's an idea of camaraderie, where there's this feeling of we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. We know, just working in this field and just living our lives, a white pride event and a black pride event, completely different things. Mm-hmm. Latin pride event are almost non-existent, whereas with other, and I feel like in America, we've strayed so far away from the foundation of why pride is important. But when we look at other countries in the world, they're still fighting for what we fought for back in 1969. They're still fighting for the freedom to simply be, to not be arrested because of who they love, to not be killed and hung up on a tree because of who they decide to sleep with. Mm-hmm. And when I see, like the first pride marches in certain countries and what it means for them, it kind of saddens me that we still can't carry that as a majority culture here in the US.
Yeah, and I think we've gotten a lot of really great comments. Joseph just said, Joseph lives in a smaller community where pride is different than what you would see in Los Angeles and Atlanta, and I'm sure even New York City. And I think that's a really good distinction to make too, where you're at, what kind of pride you're at. The LA pride is different than, even like pride in San Francisco. I mean, those are both intense prides, mm-hmm. but like pride in Long Beach is different than pride in Orange County or pride.
What does it look like to have pride in Kentucky?
Yeah.
In Louisville.
Well, I don't know if we're out on time. But
in Biloxi. Like, what?
And so, so then kind of on the same meaning as it did 10, 15 years ago, but another thing that you both have mentioned is commercialism, right? Pride is now about money. And for me, I think that's where a lot of my, every time Pride Month starts, a lot of my eye rolling happens is because then all of a sudden everything is rainbows, as we have everything rainbow. But organizations who make no mention about LGBTQIA plus people during the entire year, who don't do anything to support trans people, who don't do anything to support sexual health and HIV studies. And then all of a sudden now, rainbows everywhere. We love gay people. Yeah. But it's like, where were you, the other 11 months? And it's an eye roll, right? And it's because it's so everywhere. And it might be too, where I'm looking, being a queer person who's always on kind of queer-centered platforms. A lot of what I see is pride stuff, but I can't imagine being, a heterosexual person. June is like a bombardment of rainbows for them, which I mean, good, enjoy it.
No, but, thank you for saying.
But it's also, it feels so fake, right? Sometimes seeing some organizations, you're just doing a rainbow and you think you're doing it. What do you all think about the commercialization of pride? Do you think that these companies are doing it because yes, they genuinely do care about LGBTQ, or do they realize there's some real buying power there?
Well, I've assisted heteronormative businesses integrating into queer environments before in Long Beach. My owners of the establishment I used to run own property where a straight establishment was coming into a queer neighborhood. And what I always said is, whatever stance you decide to make, you're going to have followers and you're going to have haters. If you decide to incorporate the queer community into your business, you will have individuals saying that you are capitalizing on the queer community for the advantage or the increase of your own monetary gain. And if you don't do anything to incorporate the queer community, you are known as taking up space in an area and not endorsing the community around you. So I think it's a catch-22. I personally like the option of the items that come around to enhance my own queer repertoire of garments. Yes, I simultaneously, it was like, I wasn't dark. It was like seeing your dad once a year for your birthday and getting a gift only once a year for your birthday. That's kind of how it is. That's tolerable.
I can't be really mad at businesses, and people are probably going to look at me like, what the hell? Businesses are businesses. They're out to make money, and they're going to make money however they can make money. My problem is with people who support businesses that they know aren't queer friendly or aren't queer affirming, and I'm going to get a lot of hate mail. That's fine. Daniel@apla.org. You can see Chick-fil-A. Like, Chick-fil-A is a business that has knowingly said we don't support the queer community. But how many queer people do you know that rave about Chick-fil-A? And I'm going to still go there because their chicken sandwich is the bomb. And it's like, that's what pisses me off, is that on one hand, you say that you're part of this movement and you want to fight for your rights to be, but yet you support the very oppression and the people that have the money and make the money to buy the oppression that keeps us from those rights. From a business standpoint, again, I can't be mad at a business for capitalizing on what they know is a large event, especially in metropolitan cities. If I were, a multi-million-dollar business and Pride Month was happening, I'd slap a rainbow on all my shit too, because I want to show, whether fake or not, I want people to believe that I'm affirming and that I'm with them so that they feel more comfortable buying my merchandise. And it's a strategy. It's a stratagem. And as a business space, I can't be mad at that. That's what capitalism is. But as far as individuals who support that, individuals who spend those dollars there, knowing the alternate narrative, those are people that I can look at and be like, okay, but why? It's like people who don't vote, but you complain about who the president is. Well, sweetie, you had a choice.
I love that. And I think that you do make a really, really good point too. Like, yes, they're going to capitalize. They're going to make the money. They think if this is going to get them customers, clients, then whatever, we're going to throw a rainbow on it. So then it is. And I think you brought up a really good point. It is us as people of community. Like for me, I don't go to Chick-fil-A. I don't support their business model as much as I do love their chicken nuggets with their honey mustard sauce. Ooh, I love it. The lemonade with light ice. I could not get enough in college. But then I made it. Hey, I'm being open and honest here. Dante, if you're watching, open and honest. It's happening.
Oh, Dante's watching. Yes, Dante.
But for me,
you put up Dante's comment that says a rainbow and a black fist hashtag, because it's true. This is true.
And that's a whole nother conversation.
This is the reality.
Yeah. So sitting my head out. Okay. But yeah, so it is a matter of, I made the choice. I'm not going to support Chick-fil-A. That's me. So I hope people out there, if you're watching, if you see an organization or a company that has not been LGBTQIA plus friendly, don't buy their product. And maybe tell your friends don't buy their products. And then maybe go find a company that is LGBTQ plus affirming and buy from them, because there's so many places.
I think Billy had a comment.
Oh, yeah, Billy.
Just really, I think I may have come into Pride a little hard with my initial "What is Pride?"
No,
okay, cool.
Stand in it.
I just wanted to address something that Joseph in the comments stated about how small town prides and or conservative city prides may have a different definition or bearing. So I said the past 9 years I've been a bartender and or a manager in queer establishments. Mm-hmm. Before that, I lived in Bakersfield, California, statistically the 7th most conservative city based on voting history in the nation.
Oh my gosh.
And I was actually the host of their Pride for 6 years straight once I graduated high school. And what Pride means to a population that does not have the visibility, the populations to support around you on a day-to-day basis, Pride means something completely different to them.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about that too. Yeah.
Can I address Dante's question though about the franchise?
Mhm.
So this is what I have to say about that. A fish stings from the head down, period. And so if I buy into a franchise as a business owner and from the top down, that franchise is laid out for me to say, this is what we believe, this is what we support, and this is what we don't support. Again, as an individual, I have a choice. And if I choose to be a part of a franchise like that, then I'm choosing to receive whatever backlash comes from the fact that from the head down, your establishment, the franchise you bought into, doesn't support queer people. So to me, you can't buy into the mafia and then be like, oh, but I'm not a part of the mafia. No, yeah, boo, you are. Now, unless you're just gonna be one of those franchises that do a whole rainbow decor in your Chick-fil-A.
And then you're open on Sundays. If you're open on Sundays, then I'll trust you. But if you're not,
but again, I don't know if you're allowed to do that. Why? Because you're part of a franchise.
Yeah, and I think to kind of address that, I do want to preference what I decide, what us three here on the panel decide who we do as sport. Nobody reflects anyone else out in the world. Don't let us bully you because we're not that. Don't let us think that we're talking for APLA. Us as individuals have made choices and things like that. Other people make choices. Who knows? Billy Joe Fox might have had Chick-fil-A today for lunch. We don't know.
But I did not have Chick-fil-A today for lunch. I had vegetable soup I made yesterday. Thank you.
No, but the point being is that it's a choice. It's all a choice. So yeah, that's what it is. But with that, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back because we have more to talk about with Pride because Pride is so big. And we can't wait to share our pride with you. So yes, we'll see you guys in a few seconds.
Hey guys, Ty here from APLA Health, and I got some good news for you.
APLA Health is launching our first ever at-home HIV testing initiative.
As we battle the global pandemic of COVID-19 and all that it entails,
APLA Health is doing what we can to fill the gaps for those who are in need of knowing their status, linking to care, and having safer sex options.
The initiative, officially known as Swab and Chill, will be our virtual hub for those seeking to take an HIV test, receive HIV kits, link into medical care for those who are HIV positive, while also having access to several other programs and services that specialize in harm reduction for HIV infection.
Such services include PrEP and PEP information, as well as substance abuse services. Our goal with Swab and Chill is to make HIV testing easily accessible and easy to use within the comfort of your own home.
We provide each client with the Aura Quick at-home testing kit. This kit is a simple test that is done by orally swabbing the gums and waiting 20 minutes for your results.
APLA staff is available to virtually assist you while taking the test, while providing resources and support for those who may test positive.
maybe you already know your status and you're just low on condoms and lube due to accessibility. No problem. We can also send you one of our safer sex kits right to your front door.
As we strive to keep our community safer and well-informed, your privacy is also a high priority.
All packaging will appear from APLA Health. Our over-the-phone assessments are quick, easy, and secure, so you can feel safe in sharing your results with us and asking any questions that you may have.
If you or someone that you know is interested in having one of our at-home testing kits mailed to you, or you just want more information on what Swab and Chill can provide, please call one of our team members at 323-329-9713, or just email us.
Come swab and chill with 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 us.
just yourself.
Is your camera-
Are you still there?
I can see myself and I can't see Daniel, but I believe Daniel can't see me, but they can see themselves as well. So
All right. Well,
I think we're all here.
technical difficulties, but it's okay because it's Pride and we're proud to be here. I guess Kwame in the background will be figuring that out, but you can watch me while we have this conversation about our first prides. Should I go first?
Can you hear us?
So yes, you're the only one that can be seen right now. Me and Billy cannot be seen.
Oh, I can see you now, Daniel.
Yay!
Okay, so then I will start with my first pride. So my first pride was when I was 19 years old, and I was in Tucson, Arizona. So it was quite a small pride. It was at Reed Park. So all my Arizona people out there watching in Tucson, you know, Reed Park. It got hot. It was very hot, and it was in October, November because Tucson gets hot. So in June would just be unrealistic for anyone to survive. I remember going to Pride and thinking, this is not what I saw on television. I was expecting, you know, super attractive men, naked, dancing, and it wasn't that in Tucson. For many reasons, but because Tucson is a smaller town, it is a little bit more conservative. It is the blue dot in Arizona, if you will. It was a lot of resources, right? It was a lot of places where queer organizations were coming together. And it was the first time I had seen young queer people. I think for me growing up, I don't know, maybe I was just at that age cusp where a lot of times my peers weren't coming out until they were later. So like 18, 19. But that was the first time I had seen young queer people. And for me, I remember thinking, I wish I was 13 years old and I was brave enough to come out. Or I wish I would have known at that age, kind of where my queerness was coming from. So that was my first pride. It was hot. I did not get dressed up because I still barely do that. I was probably in a sweatshirt and pants, but that's just everyday life for Kai. And I didn't enjoy myself, but it's because I went with the expectation of Pride should be this huge party full of attractive men, and I was going to be a man that day.
You were looking for Latino Oasis. That's what you were looking for. You were looking for Latino Oasis. And honey, you got very college campus info fair.
But I appreciate what I got though, because at least it showed me, it kind of was my first step into, okay, this is what Pride really is. It's not the party. So that was my first Pride. That was in 2010. So yeah, I don't know if it's different. I haven't been back to Tucson Pride since. Billy, what was your first Pride like?
My first Pride was in 2005. I was 18 years old. I had just graduated high school, and it was a local Bakersfield Pride event that I had heard about through my one gay friend in high school. And I went by myself on a Saturday in October, because that's when Bakersfield's exceptionally hot as well. And shout out to Dante over there. That's where I ran into the Empowerment Project. And there was a tent for the Empowerment Project inside of this art museum, basically garden, where they had an accumulation of maybe 15 organizations. Maybe 7 of them were queer oriented and the other ones were allies in Bakersfield. We had PFLAG, we had the Bakersfield LGBTQ, we had some local community theater groups. But I was grabbed by the hand by my future lifelong friend, Paul Littlejohn, and I was taken over to the empowerment booth, and I was told about condom applications and socialization groups and HIV testing and flavored lubricant packets and let's doing something for the community. And I came to that next week's empowerment meeting and started coordinating it 3 months later.
Wow, look at you.
Oh, Pride story, yeah.
And the rest was history for Billy Joe Fox.
Well, period. Well, the next Pride event, I had actually made such a name for myself within the organization that I hosted Bakersfield Pride 2006 through 2012.
Look, I love that for you. Wow, that's so cool. So, Billy, my question for you then is: when you went and you realized, did you have an expectation of what Pride was? Did you go in like I did and thought you were going to leave with a man? Or did you just go because you wanted to be around?
I went petrified. I went petrified. I had been bullied. Oh my goodness! I mean, I had been bullied in high school only because of the conservative nature of where I lived. I was a very out and open and vocal member of the queer community from the second that I identified with the population. Once I knew and was okay with being gay, being the weird boy in high school, you didn't have anything else over me.
That's
Yeah,
great.
call me anything because I am that, and I'm just not going to let you affect me with your words.
I love that.
Okay.
In the best way. What about you, Daniel? Tell us about Daniel J's first Pride event.
So technically I have two. So my first Pride ever, I was a teenager in high school, and it was Long Beach Pride. And I went to Long Beach Pride. Me and a few friends got together, took the train, rustled up some funds. And we went to Long Beach Pride because it was the furthest away from where I lived. So I was like, the possibility of me seeing someone that I know in my everyday life is very slim. And I remember going, and we had enough money to get in. We had enough money to get like a food object, and then enough money to get back home once this stuff was all over. But it was a lot of fun at that age because, you know, I had never seen anything of that magnitude. And for those who don't know about Long Beach Pride is a huge Pride event, like a huge
Fourth
here
biggest in the nation.
in LA County. And so me and my friends, I think it was 4 or 5 of us all together, really just figuring our own sexuality out. Like we really went just to be like, is this our tribe? Like, is this our people? But the first Pride that I acknowledge as like where I got to go and experience and be myself was probably in my early 20s. And it was my first time at ATB, which was Black Gay Pride at the beach. ATB stood for at the beach. And honey, when I tell you that weekend was phenomenal, from Griffith Park to Fault Line, like just the whole gamut of clubs and bars that I was able to go to, the people that I met, the fact that I was very snatched and very cute and very young with a big old booty. I was living my best life on those dance floors and in those streets. And I had a few men that
You were living the Pride fantasy I thought I was going to get. I thought I was going to get that at 19. It didn't happen. I will say Long Beach Pride was my first Pride here in California, and it was on my 26th birthday. Long Beach Pride is usually right around the time of my birthday. And it was, for me, the most queer, my first huge queer experience. And I can even now think back to like walking into Long Beach Pride and thinking, oh my gosh, this is intense, but in like the best way possible. Like I think that's the safest I've ever felt in like an outdoor festival kind of setting. But I think that kind of leads me into my next question is, how would you like to see Pride change now, right? 2020, we had COVID, so Prides were shut down. Things are opening back up again. The world's a little different too, right? We think of more than just having fun. We're definitely, I would say, more aware of kind of our elders, why we're celebrating Pride, what it means. What would you like to see Pride be going forward, Daniel?
I would love to see Pride get back to more of the activism part of why Pride is important. I don't want to completely get rid of, you know, the fun and the folly and the frolic and all that. But I would like to see a larger awareness from younger generations as they come into Pride. I think one of the differences as I sit in this in-between generation of old and new, the bridged generation, if you will, we had a lot of older LGBTQIA plus folks that shared those stories with us. You know, I had a lot of friends that I sat under and listened to, and there was a lot of knowledge that was bestowed on me as a young gay boy growing up in this world. And when I go out and I see those younger than me who don't have that, who don't and aren't interested in it, it's a little hard. It's a heartbreaking moment, because it's like, you know, if you don't, it's so cliche. If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And I feel like it's such a truth. Like, it's cliche because it's true. So I would like to see Pride have more of an infusion of the awareness and the activism and the advocacy as to why this time and these events are important.
Great. Yeah. What about you, Billy?
I'm also going to address something that Dante brought up in a comment I see down in here, that Pride needs to be a little bit more balanced, and they may feel like they've aged out Pride festivities. I would actually like to see Pride be geared back to the queer establishments and businesses of the city in which we are trying to populate and be prideful of. If it's Long Beach Pride, I want you to know that you need to go to there are these queer establishments where you can go to maybe find a centered population of people. If you want to go to Sweetwater, where the genderqueers hang out, or if you want to go to the Broadway, where the older generation might be accumulating that day. If you want to go and you're more athletically inclined, you go to the Silver Fox. But also, you go and frequent the queer establishments that aren't drug or alcohol based. You bring pride from the fact that you're pansexual. You know how Pride LGBTQIA plus identified individuals, there's a lot of different types of people to be celebrated in one area. And I think if you spread that out over the entirety of the city that Pride's being held at, you might get a better sense of what that community's idea of Pride is, what your own idea of Pride is, because it's not just so focused on being in the beer garden while watching, the white-thonged Brazilian dancer who's climbing a scaffolding while seeing their lower intestine. It's just like, let's go to the salon that has trans book nights and offer them potentially some business during Pride events.
I will say at 36, I would like to go to a Pride event where my enjoyment is not based on how well I can twerk. So I just,
You can twerk?
No.
Oh, I think that's what.
No, and I think you both Pride needs a jazz tent. I agree, Dante. Billy, I think you and Dante both said a really good thing about it being balanced. And the idea of, in my mind, the way it looked was like, what if there was like this map of the city where it was all the queer establishments were posted like starred almost, or a rainbow, or whatever you think. And then even the explanation you gave, Billy, like what kind of bar is it? What kind of establishment is it? Who's generally there? I think would be great. For me, I would love to see Pride, just like you both said, kind of get back to why it started, as well as more than just a party. I think the party's great, and we definitely need to do it because it's fun. We as queer people oftentimes don't always have the spaces to do that. But I do think there should also be this more of because all the Prides do have the tents and they do have the areas where you can walk around. So it's definitely up to you to kind of how you want your Pride to be. But I wish there was a little bit more of a focus in there, especially with us in sexual health, that we saw more conversation in Pride heavily pushed. Not just they're throwing condoms at you, whatever, or there's a couple places you can get an HIV test, but like really, really heavy push the conversations around PrEP and PEP, really, really push the conversations about the different kind of sexual health information that's out there. And I understand too, there are definitely constraints. I would just like to see Pride be not just about what outfit am I going to wear, how great am I going to look, who am I going to hook up with. And that also comes into, how we walk into the Prides. As I mentioned, when I was 19 years old, I walked into Pride for one thing and one thing only. I didn't leave with it, but I did leave with a lot of great resources. And I wish that a lot more people would leave Prides with resources and information and places to find communities. That's
why I think Pride's so important and needs to still be here. Pride still needs to be present, even if it is not necessarily what we idealize for Pride for ourselves. It's also a springboard for a lot of queer individuals to get education for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this leads into kind of our last little point of the day. And Dante, don't worry, I'll address that one here too. But Billy, when you think of Pride, what does Pride mean to you? This is the big question that we've been leading up to. What is Pride to you? Or what does Pride mean to you? I know, loaded.
I know, it is a loaded question. Pride to me means doing the things that we talk about when we talk about Pride. If the objective is to make Pride more inclusive, then dang, how you caught me. Like, I can't formulate what Pride is to me. This is like a moment.
Do you want to take a pause and
Please
see?
and thank you. Yeah.
Do you have anything of what pride means to you?
Pride to me is about authenticity, truth, and discovery. I think that those are definitely three things that pride should always be. It should help an individual understand their truth, give them the confidence to live in that truth and to walk this world in the authority of that truth, while also getting the education, getting the experience, and the awareness of how important it is to allow people the right to be who they are, and to permeate that into communities where love and acceptance and respect are just foundational and not conditional based on, what politics, what religious beliefs, or, what orientations and gender identities that we agree upon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Billy, I'll give you a little bit more time. I have an answer for this one. For me, pride is, and as I think as cliche as it is, it's the ability to be authentically yourself. And I think that's why a lot of times, even though we've kind of talked about how we don't want pride to be this huge party, but the reason it is a party is because we had to riot for that, right? And I think that part still is, it's this pent up, I want to celebrate and I want to be myself. As the world changes and as us as queer people have less reason to have to hide ourselves, or there's more acceptance of us, I'm sure, Pride's partying will kind of maybe die down a little bit. But it's also, for me, I think pride is a moment where we come together as a community and uplift members in our community who aren't cisgender white men, right? And I think a lot of times when we think about pride, and this is going kind of to the question that Dante put, it's dominated oftentimes by a certain race or a certain group of people, and it's cisgendered white gay men often. That's not what pride should be about, right? Especially during Pride Month, we should be coming together as a community and uplifting our trans community, right? Uplifting our Black trans women, uplifting, our transgender men who we so often forget about, really coming together to help non-binary people, really coming together to protect the people who are most at risk right now. That's pride, is protecting our community and showing our community in ourselves, because even in ourselves, the transphobia in the LGBTQ community, and maybe even a little bit in the T community, is rampant. And we can't say that we have pride, but then we talk bad about the people who got it for us, right? Got us this day or this month to really be ourselves. And it's transgendered women, it's transgendered people who fought. And I mean, yes, there were gay men and there were lesbians and there were a lot of different people, but we often kind of steamroll over our trans siblings. And so for me, I would love Pride to be that moment to thank our trans community, to better uplift them, and to come together as a community and show that, we are thriving. So yeah, that's what I want Pride to be.
I think I have an answer really quickly. I find it hard to necessarily define what pride is, because sometimes it's hard to even take pride in your actions. But what pride is to me is reconnecting with the individuals that have helped me through my queer existence. Those individuals that have educated me in my youth, and those individuals that are my rocks, the ones that keep me from floating away on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis when it's not Pride, making sure that those individuals know that they are loved, they're cared for, they are heard. That's what Pride is to me, a reconnection with your pride.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. So with that, we are going to end this week's episode of Pride. Daniel, do you want to give us a little information on what's happening next week?
So tune in next week, 4:30 here Tuesday. Why? Because it is the second Tuesday of the month, which means it is our Link Latinx, and we're going to be talking about mental health and pride as it pertains to the Latinx community. We're going to be asking some of the same questions we asked today, just as it pertains to the Latin community, but we're also going to be addressing the lack of presence in Pride events that we don't often get to see with the Latinx community. And I will be joined with Roger, Nigel, and our special guest, Carlos. So tune in next week, 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, right here on the APLA Prevention Department page on Facebook and on YouTube.
So with that, we here at The Link will say happy first day of Pride. Enjoy this month. If you are not part of the LGBTQ plus community, if you are an ally, this is also your month to support us and support trans people. All of that. So with that, we will say, see you next week. Bye. Have a wonderful Pride.
Have a wonderful Pride, everyone.